It's been quite a while since I've done one of these, but you guys have been asking me to do a ranty style video like this for quite some time, and since I think the new update is very deserving of some criticism, here we are. I've been trying to be more positive with the videos I put out, but I'm so confused by Update Sky Guardians that I had to make a video on it. I mean, it's difficult to even think of where to begin. I guess I'll start with a few positives this update has. It introduced the French naval tree, which you know me, I'm not a naval player at all, but I know people have been anticipating this for quite some time, so it's good that they're finally starting to roll that out. In fact, every nation got at least one vehicle this update, which is something that I hope they keep up in the future. In previous updates, it was always disappointing to log on and see that nothing was added for your nation of choice, especially for minor nations where you could go like 3 or 4 updates without getting a single vehicle, at least not for the tree you care about like air or ground. But everyone got something this update even if the vehicle wasn't very unique, which we will talk about later. Some models were updated, which is always nice. Most of the new effects look pretty good. I can't say I've noticed too much of a difference, but the new contrails are really nice. I especially like it as a ground player because it makes it easier to spot planes. And finally, they made it so that if you ban a particular map, it also bans the snow variant of it, which to be fair is solving a problem they made themselves. I don't think a ton of snow variants for maps should be added, but again, we'll get into that later. It is nice that you have the option to see them less often. They still really need to increase the number of map bans you get. One is simply not enough, especially when they add like 1 or 2 maps every update. But everyone knows how Gaijin feels about that, so I doubt it'll change. So those were the positives, not a very extensive list. And let's talk about the negatives. I guess the best place to start would be the Pantsir. It is such a mind-boggling addition. So the whole idea behind adding it was that supposedly the Tunguska has very low efficiency at top tier, at least for shooting down planes, which I personally don't understand. I've never really had an issue using it. It's certainly not the best SPAA, but I wouldn't say it's worse than say the ADATs are automatic. And I think the issue is that people tend to use it as a tank destroyer, or they try to. I know that I did, especially when it was first added. I mean, it was so good at killing tanks that I put a talisman on it. I have more tank kills than plane kills, so I think that might be contributing. But the Pantsir is such a massive leap forward in capability, and one that other nations simply cannot match. Not because they don't have anything right now, but because they simply don't have vehicles that they can add. Like in the US, we do air defense a bit differently than Russia does. We don't really have any self-propelled mid-range SPAA, at least not ones that are self-contained like a Pantsir is. The only real Western anti-air systems that can match the Pantsir don't meet Gaijin's definitions for a vehicle that can be added, because they have these separate towed modules. Like, say if they wanted to add Patriot, they would have to have a HEMET that is towing a command unit and a radar unit behind it, like a Patriot conga line, which wouldn't work very well as you can imagine. And if they really wanted a new top-tier anti-air for Russia, they could have added Tor, a vehicle which is already in the game. It's better than the Tunguska, but it's not busted. Not only that, but you wouldn't have to pay someone for a new model. It's like they took the least easy approach. On paper, Pantsir is broken because its missiles far outrange everything else, and because its radar is insane. Not only is the range significantly larger than other radars, but its verticality is also much better. So you can't really do the thing where you side climb above radar range and then dive down, because Pantsir can see you the entire time. And you know, I'm not crying for Cass here. The issue is that for Western nations, one of the best ways to counter MiG-27s was to spawn in a fighter and shoot them down. Because again, your SPAA can't really see them if they side climb. But if you're spawning a fighter to counter MiG-27s, you can't really do anything. There's nowhere the Pantsir can't see you, unless you hug the deck, in which case you're not going to be very effective. So to summarize, Pantsir is a bad addition because it has no real counterpart, and because it only makes Russian casts stronger. And I just remembered that its addition nerfed other top-tier SAMs. Like, Gaijin saw the backlash about Pantsir and said, oh, we should make Sakhalos missiles harder to aim. And boy did they. Top-tier Sakhalos SAMs are so painful to use now. They have this brief period after you launch them where they don't really maneuver at all. So you try to correct, but then it leaves that first stage, and then you overcorrect, so you just miss the target. It is manageable if the target isn't close and isn't moving, but it's still pretty bad. And one thing I don't get, if the Tunguska was so bad already, why did they apply this nerf to it? They didn't do it to every top tier SPAA. The ADATs is still fine, I think. So what is the reasoning there? Next, I guess we can talk about the new Hunter. So Gaijin added the Swiss Hunter F58 to Germany. First of all, it is insanely busted. It's 9.3 but gets missiles, countermeasures, drop tanks, and other things. So it's just straight up better than its tech tree counterpart, and it makes no sense for it to go to Germany. Literally the only reason they put it in Germany is that most of Switzerland speaks German. Well, not even German, it's Swiss German, which isn't exactly the same thing. And it sucks because I've been saying for a while that I think Switzerland should go to France. Like, militarily speaking, they've collaborated a lot, And France could use the vehicles. I mean, it's not like they're lacking in vehicles of their own to add. It's just giving them more options, you know? As for the other editions, I don't have much to say about the planes. Unfortunately, a lot of the ground editions are not very unique. The T1E1 is nice to have, but it doesn't offer a whole lot over the M6. I have heard nothing about the Challenger 2E. I know people are upset about the Ariete. It doesn't add a whole lot over the other ones that are currently in the game when it could. The ZTS 63, I've played it a bit, it's abysmal. Just play a Type 63, it's basically the same thing but a whole BR lower. You guys already know about the Praga. It is a better tank destroyer than SPAA. I mean, I've got like 66 tank kills, 12 deaths, and only 8 plane kills. It definitely needs to go up. The chart 2C, I don't understand why it's at 2.7. The new Swedish anti-air is also broken as far as I know. From what I've seen, it is basically like a tracked ZA-35, but it also gets some APDS rounds. It really is quite funny that they named this update after SPAA, and every one that they've added is broken in some way. Okay, so that covers the vehicles. As you guys know, I'm not very happy that they've added even more snow maps. I just hate being flashbanged as soon as I spawn in, and it's just very monotonous. Every other game I get, there's snow. I can't be the only one getting tired of it. This update was also very buggy. Like you guys saw when I was playing the Praga and I thought I was taking poison damage because my gunner died for no reason. Wait, what? What the hell? Turns out Gaijin broke artillery. Not only was it inaudible, it was also invisible. I think they did finally fix that yesterday, like, what, a week after the update came out? APDS was bugged and still is. I think this is related to the penetration change they did, but if you use APDS now, some very interesting things happen. The slug will now travel perpendicular to the plate it penetrated, at least sometimes. I played the Centurion a bit when I was trying to grind the new Swedish anti-air, and sometimes my APDS would just vanish completely. I think I recorded it maybe, but I shot another Centurion directly in the lower front plate right where the ammo is, and it just turned it yellow. Like the slug completely disappeared and the SPAA did essentially nothing. And I really don't understand the decision to show ammunition used in the kill feed. It just clutters up the UI and it doesn't add any real useful information. If you could toggle it, I'd be okay with it, but you can't, so. And to cap things off, I can think of one other occurrence. It's time for yet another episode of Spookston tries to battle Gaijin over bug reports and loses his mind. You might have noticed that the M41 Bulldog had its turret traverse nerfed, and when I saw this on the dev server I thought, that doesn't sound right. So I looked into it, and sure enough, it's not right. So usually when you're making a bug report, you have to be very specific about the variant you're talking about, because you know, a lot can change from one variant to another on a certain tank. Apparently Gaijin overlooked that with this bug report. So the M41 that we have in game is the M41A1, right? Well, this bug report had one source. It was a manual on the M41 and M41A1, and it said the turret traverse was 25 degrees per second, but it didn't specify which variant. And this is important because the entire reason behind making the A1 variant of the Bulldog was to make it traverse faster. The A1 variant gave the Bulldog a new turret traverse system, one that would help it meet a 5-second engagement time rule. So I showed Gaijin the M41A1's history, the entire reason behind making it, and I showed two sources saying the old turret traverse rate was correct. They saw this and said, "We see no contradiction," which makes no sense because that is the most contradictory you can get. So I went and found a datasheet on the M41A1 specifically that says 36 degrees per second, 6 RPM. This is a primary source from the US Army, and they said, okay, we'll take a look at it. I never heard back, and the M41A1 is nerfed on the live server. And it just reinforces that Gaijin doesn't care how well sourced your bug report is. If they don't like what it says, they'll put it on the back burner indefinitely. Basically, they only enact the bug reports that give them an outcome they want. Which, if they were upfront about this, I wouldn't care too much. But they act like if something is wrong historically, you can just change it, no problem. That is not the case. Anyway, I think that's about it. If you guys have suggestions for video topics, leave them in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one.